Hello, good morning, gentlemen, and happy felicitation for the new year. Good to see you.
Morning.
All right, so was it a shocker yesterday that the president really announced and assented to this particular bill? There has been a cry, and there has been also calls from every quarter of this country that the president should not assent to this particular law. We had also Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka saying this is a poison chalice. Has the president signed or swallowed a poison chalice, Senator Khalwale?
In fact, I'm surprised that he signed it yesterday. I was expecting that he was going to sign it the following morning after the fiasco in the Senate.
Yes.
So now that he has confirmed that he is indeed the engine behind that misconceived attempt to prepare a law that has got the potential to create instability in the country, now Kenyans know that President Uhuru is no different from other African presidents who would want to rule their countries for life.
All right, let's hear from Herman Manyora.
You know, Debarl, there's a lot to say about this thing. First, it shows my friend Senator Boni Khalwale has been outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and finally outvoted by Jubilee, which I always knew. Nothing is really difficult to see in this game. I said before that the IBC cry that commissioners must go was going to be a trap for court to fall into. They fell right into the trap. Now this law is another trap, and they will fall right into the trap, because anybody would see that a thinking system cannot come up with this kind of law. So there must be a reason why somebody has come up with this law.
Yes.
It is to trap these people into doing exactly what they are going to do. And this is going to be like mass action, for example. And there's a lot you can say against mass action. But for now, let me just stop there and say, I would invite CORD to do serious thinking before they make any move from now onwards. Because the government cannot be this daft to come up with this law. In war, when an otherwise strong opponent withdraws or makes seemingly very useless moves that are dangerous, you must be careful and very worried, as Wamatangi says. You must be very worried when somebody makes this kind of law. There must be a reason.
So you still quote Wamatangi?
He said a lot of, no, I'm saying, listen, please. He said a lot of bad things in the paper. But at least there's something he said. I said there are two good things he said. But one good thing he said, if somebody has been to The Hague, like President Uhuru and the Deputy Ruto, and back, you must be very worried about them. Very, very worried. That is right.
So are you trying in any way, Senator Khalwale, are you trying in any way to try and poo-poo, prophet, so to speak, of politics, Wamatangi, with the sentiment on Sunday, all right?
You see, what you saw in that article was an admission by Jubilee that their thinking capacity has been so badly defeated by the thinking capacity of CORD that they had to go to somebody like Wamatangi, whose politics are like a woman who has gone beyond menopause, posing that she's going to deliver in the triplets.
Okay, let's hear from Senator Kimani Wamatangi. Yeah, Senator Kimani Wamatangi. Good morning.
Well, the question is, what's the way forward now that the law has been signed?
Yes.
And the law had to be signed. That's a matter of fact, because this country must have a way forward from where we are. We are heading to an election in August, that is for sure. And unless anyone else, including CORD, would want to tell us otherwise, that they're not intent, they're not keen on going to the election. And if we have already laid down the ground and we are saying we are going to an election, then a way forward must be found. But if you may, why don't we talk about the real issue here? Because this whole fiasco was created by CORD itself. And I think the first question that CORD would require to answer to this country is, do they believe in the process they initiated, or were they real? Were they genuine in the process they kickstarted? Remember,
which process?
As you have said,
which process of going to the streets?
First, they went to the streets, and their agitation then was, we want to kick out IEBC commissioners. Reason, we must have a free and fair election. And remember, they themselves sat jointly with the Jubilee in that committee where Senator Khalwale was. And we have talked about that committee here before. They're the authors of this particular law. The one now they're protesting against. They're the ones who authored the law. They passed it, they brought it, it was passed. CORD voted for this law to the man. Remember, when the law was being passed, they voted for it to the man. And after passing it, now they're beating a retreat. But the fundamental question is this. Now that they started a process where they wanted IEBC commissioners out, believing or making Kenyans believe that what they wanted was a free and fair election, then the commissioners are out. We come now again with the law. They have the law in place. Remember, Jubilee does not conduct elections. It is IEBC that conducts elections. So when they say that they are now fomenting a new meeting, which they're saying they'll be holding tomorrow. After that, they're anticipating they may go to the streets. They have already threatened to do that.
Yes.
And the issue they're raising is that there will be no free and fair elections. That's what they're saying. And they have already got what they asked for. New commissioners.
But it seems the dynamics of all...
Let me first make my point.
I'm going to raise my red card now.
Yeah, fine. But let me make my point. My point is this, that I want Kenyans to know that this hula baloo, this push and pull, the mark and mire that has been raised by CORD is not about the elections law. It is not about any insertions of any word or comma in that law. It is pure politics. It is politics about the survival of the players in CORD, of where they will be in the next elections.
Thank you.
And what they are bound to get out of it.
All right.
That is simple.
We have Dr. Amokoa Nangwe saying that, of course, this is not about the election laws, but it's also about the paranoia of politicians in this country. There is an essence of mistrust, even between the opposition and the Jubilee administration. Do you hold with that view, Honorable Mithika Linturi?
Debarl, first let me send jambo to the listeners of this program and wish them a happy new year, though belatedly. But allow me to say that I agree with the opinion of Anangwe, if whatever you have said is his opinion in regard to what is happening in the country. And why I'm saying this is because I am really in a position that I am left wondering as a leader in this country what virtues or values that politicians at times stand for. Because they become masters of doublespeak.
Yes.
And with your due respect, it's like all of them have been cut from the same cloth. Today is A, tomorrow is B. When things change, A becomes B and B becomes C. And it's really annoying. And I want to make, to demonstrate this in the context of the election laws and where we are a country and the comments that you've just talked about, Amokoya Nangwe. One, the issue why we are here, and what is currently on our table for debate is the signing of the election laws. I want to inform the country that whether Uhuru Kenyatta or not signed that law, by virtue of Section 116, Subsection 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, for within 14 days after publication of any law or passage of any bill, then whether the president or not signs its law, it acquires its own life. So whichever way, this law would have been would have come to effect. And you know, the CORD guys are my friends. Omami, Dr. Khalwale, Jakoyo, and I also want them to admit that as Parliament has let this country down. because we have allowed parliament to be used by the executive and the people that have executive authority and power to emasculate parliament. And the moment that we allowed law to be made outside parliament and being brought to parliament for us to pass without changes, either a comma, a full stop, or whatever it is, we will indeed serious mistakes. Because the power to write law is vested on parliament. And by virtue of parliament not having addressed itself to the weaknesses in this particular law or the effects of the coming into force of this law, will remain a serious error. And finally, because this is a democracy, and where parliament is supposed to make the law, and where each one of us participated in the debates and subsequent passage of this law, Court must be aware and agree that in any democracy, on democracy in very simple ones, is dictatorship by the majority. And that's why in a constitution or in our law, there are those freedoms and liberties that are put in law to safeguard the interests of the minority.
Thank you. Right.
Now, if we need to have time, really,
we have time, but we just want to get cursory remarks before we take a short break. Let's hear from Honorable Jakoyo.
I just let him make a fool of himself.
Okay. All right. You agree?
I am not afraid. I am not afraid because I think at the end of the show, Jakoyo, with all due respect, may end up appearing more foolish than I am in this particular matter. Because what I am trying to tell the country is, you have agreed to subject yourselves to certain processes and standards. You have agreed that you participate in the making of a certain law. And you know its consequences or how it's supposed to affect us as Kenyans. Why are you changing steps? Why would you be summoned by anybody in a room and be told, go and do MBCD, other than apply your own mind as a lawmaker, as a citizen, in terms of coming up with a law for posterity? The fight we are finding ourselves in here is trying to fight there is a battle for supremacy between the ruling class or between President Uhuru's party and Cont. And Jakoyo, for God's sake, please.
You just call it ruling class.
So what we need to do is that we are getting into an election here.
Yes.
The Kenyan people are supposed to elect their own leaders. Please, organize your house, get out to the public and tell them you are the best suited to replace Jubilee, and if they give you the mandate, then so be it. But let us not create a situation whereby we create a narrative for you to reject the results of elections for other particular reasons which you are not trying to disclose. I am saying that is what is happening. And whether the law is banned or not, I don't think this is the right venue. We can only try to argue out with the Kenyans.
Okay, let's hear from Jakoyo.
And you look at me as well. If there is anything unconstitutional with the law, then challenge the law in a constitutional court.
All right, Jakoyo, you've got 2 minutes.
But don't set the country on fire for selfish gains.
All right, let's hear from Jakoyo. Okay, Jakoyo.
First of all, Linturi, Honorable Mithika Linturi, you must understand that you are a leader in the nation called Kenya. It is not possible that you can pass a law that enables you to rig elections. I can tell you, Boni and I, over our dead bodies. Let me just tell you, it is okay to announce that there is going to be serious altercation in this country. Because you have been a member of parliament, and I know you came recently, but now you're on your 10th year. That you can bring a law which is negotiated, then 6 months later you want to change it.
3 months.
3 months later, you know, what you people are doing, if you are saying we are not following due process, which other due process is there in law? I want to say this, Debarl. You know, it's good to tell Kenyans Happy New Year. Because this panel is back. I have 1 or 2 other things which I will say a bit later. But in regard to this issue, I don't expect Honorable Mithika Linturi to reason like Kimani Wamatangi. You know, Kimani Wamatangi may have come from wherever he has come from. But how? 6 months, traditions of parliament. You don't even attempt to amend the law. Now, let me say this. One last thing, Boni. I was in Kakamega the other day, on Friday. We have announced that tomorrow we will tell our people when, not how. When. You can't smother us. This is really the exact point. And Mithika, tell them, if we want free and fair elections, why do you want dead voters to vote? Why do you want dead people to vote? Because in the last elections, they manufactured 2 million voters. And this coming elections, there will never be elections with 2 million dead people.
All right.
I need to make a small comment, which I think is important. I'm glad that on day one of our debates, I have agreed with Kimani Wamatangi and Linturi. Yes, you are right when you say that what we saw was nothing but just pure politics and not lawmaking. Where I differ with you is when you fail to admit the politics that both sides of the divide were pursuing. The politics us in court were pursuing is that we were trying to make the political playground as level as possible. But as far as Jubilee was concerned, you're going out of your way to live to the adage that when you fail to make law, you then resort to a process of giving a license to some people to rule over others ad infinitum. That's exactly what took place. Now, Kenyans might not understand why we are very bitter. The law, the way it has been amended, it then gives an opportunity for underage voters to vote, and 2, dead people to vote. Things said that way, people can think you're manufacturing the truth.
All right.
The truth is this way. How does a dead person vote? Wamatangi, you'll have a time to rebuke me.
The red card is up, actually.
The red card and the yellow card is
No. How does a dead person vote? This is very important. There are 3 steps under electronic voting. The first one is biometric voter registration. You do not need network to do that. It is simply putting your thumb, whether there is network where you are voting from or not, and you'll be identified that that thumbprint belongs to this live person. That person will be alive, and if he's underage, they will not be allowed to come in because they will not be of age. That the second thing is when you now go to vote, there is electronic voter identification. When you put in your finger into that device, it remembers that you are the one who was registered biometrically.